Okay, so with these sum and difference formulas, here they are right now. So if you have the sine of two angles being added, x plus y, okay, so sine of x plus y, this is a nice way of thinking about it. Sine keeps the sign, so it's going to be, if it's plus here, okay, and you just write sine, cosine, sine, cosine. And then what you do is you just simply say, okay, hey, well, what goes in here? Well, what's my first thing here? It's x, and then y, and then interchange them. Yx. That's it. There's one of them. So here's the difference one for sine. So it's x minus y. So remember, sine keeps the sign, so if this is minus, this one is also going to be minus. And then we're going to say it's sine of, we're going to write, sine, cosine, then we write sine, cosine. And then here is going to go x, the first one, and then y, and then we're going to switch them over, call this, we're going to call this one yx. Cool? These are just formulas you need to memorize. That's it. Okay? Now this is for sine. Okay? Any questions here? Okay? They're pretty straightforward. Next. Anybody need to see it still? Yes? No? Okay. Next we're going to do cosine. So the cosine of x plus y. Okay? So cosine is the one that changes its sign. Okay? So, and then cosine, so if this is positive, the cosine changes to negative. Okay? And then it's kind of like a little game. It goes cosine, cosine, sine, sine. 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 And then we put in the angles. What are my angles? X and y, and then what? X, y. It doesn't matter. You can put yx, it doesn't matter because it's commutative. Thus, the way you multiply them doesn't matter. Okay? So this is my cosine sum formulas here. Okay? And then we're going to do the minus ones. So it's cosine of x minus y. So again, cosine, it changes the sign. So this is minus, this is a plus. And then we say cosine, cosine, sine, sine, and then what goes in there? But the first one is what? xy, and then we put xy again. Okay? That's it. Oops. These are your sum and difference formulas. That's it. Okay? And they're pretty straightforward to use, mostly. The hard part is just figuring them out, how to address a few things here. All right, so we're gonna build the skill first. So these are the formulas. We're just gonna use these in a second. Okay. So now, before we do that, though, I want you to think about this. So this is actually plugging them in is easy. Okay. What you need to do is you need to figure out this here. So what are the angles we know? What are angles we know? Let's write down all the ones we know. What do we know? What are the angles that we're familiar with? We got 45 degrees. What else? 45. 60 degrees. What else? 30. 90. And all the rest of them are pretty much just multiples of those, right? And if you know this is pi over 4, this is pi over what? 3 pi over what? Not 2. Pi over 6 and pi over what? 2. Okay? Hopefully you've memorized these by now. Okay? They should be very familiar. If you forgot, remember, pi is 180. What is 180 divided by 3? 60, right? That's how we kind of remember them. Okay, so let's just say, if I gave you, okay, so let's draw another thing here. So how would I get 75 degrees based on these angles here? Yeah. Do we agree that 45 plus 30, just using these here, does that give me 75? Check, right? Bless you. What about 15 degrees? How would you get that? Based on these angles here. Yeah, 45 minus what? 30. Do we agree? Is that 15? Yeah, that's cool. Okay. What else is there? Oh, here we go. How about 105 degrees? How would I get that? Based on these angles here. 60 plus what? 45 degrees. Do we agree? Yep. That's pretty straightforward. So, I mean, most of these aren't that bad. You could kind of tell. Like, sometimes they do negatives. What about negative 15 degrees? What is that? 30 minus 45. Okay? So, look, all you need to know is know these. Now, the radians are a little more challenging. I'll just give you degrees just for fun since we're starting off. Okay? So, we're going to do an example now. Ready? So, all you need to do is know these, and then we got it. So we're going to do example 1. Jasenia, how are we doing on time? 8 minutes. That should be enough time. So let's just go ahead and do the sine of 15 degrees. Now, do you know, is 15 degrees on the unit circle? No, right? It's not. But we do know that 15 degrees is what? That's 45 what? Minus 30. So do you agree this is also equal to 45 minus 30? True? Do we agree? Yeah, right? And why do I care? Because now I can use, this is the sine formula, and this is this a sum or a difference? Difference. So we go here and we say, oh look, I got this guy here, right? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the formula underneath it. So I know, or I'll write it on top of it, okay? So I know that the sine of x minus y is what? It's sine, cosine, right? Oh, you guys can't see. Let me do it now. Sorry. So the sine formula is what? It's sine, cosine, right? And then sine keeps a sign, so this is a negative here, right? And then what goes in here? X, y, and then we switch it, yx, right? So then, what do I do for the sine of 45 minus 30? What do I do here? We do the same thing. Is this plus or minus? Minus. So we put sine what? Cosine. Sine, cosine, right? What goes in the first one? 45. See, you guys see? We see how x is 45? 45, 30. Yep, 30 and then what? 45. Any questions here? Well, you have to simplify now. So at this stage, you should have memorized your special right triangles, okay? Or your unit circle. Now, if you have not, that's okay, but we need to make this. I'm going to go really fast, okay? So before I do that, we're going to write them down in case you forgot, okay? So here we go. So let's write down our special right triangles. 30, what? 60, 90. What's across from 30? 1/2. This is root 3 over 2 and 1, right? What about 45, 45, 90? What is this? Root 2 over 2, right? There you go. Okay, so we're just going to use these. Ready? Oh, this is 1. Okay? So now, hopefully, you won't need it, but we're just going to use it anyways. Okay? Alright. So now, what is the sine of 45 degrees? Root 2 over 2. True? Cosine of 30. Now, if you forgot, your triangle. 30, right? What's cosine? It's adjacent over what? Hypotenuse, right? What does that give me? Square root of 3 over 2. Okay, if you don't If you can't do this that quickly, then have your unit circle handy. Okay, but everybody at this stage should be able to follow along with this. What's the sine of 30? You look at your triangle. Sine is what? Opposite over what? What does that give me? 1/2. What's the cosine of 45? Square root of 2 over 2. And now we simplify. What do we get with this one? What's the square root of 2 times the square root of 3? No one? What's 2 times 3? 6. So we get the square root of 6. What's 2 times 2? 4. Minus what? What does this give me? Root 2 over 4. Now we're going to combine it and leave it as one denominator. I'm going to take it down here. So we get the square root of 6 minus the square root of 2 all over what? 4. Done. Okay? Yeah. So as you can see here, these aren't that bad, but it does require prior knowledge.